Here we go, Mr. Trutna here. This is, we're going to go over Unit 9, Worksheet number 3. We're just going to do some select problems. Clovis High School, Math 2, and what we're going to be going over is we are going to be going over the concept of a GCF, the greatest common factor. Okay, keeping with tradition, here is our joke. I got a neck brace years ago. Stick around till the end of the video and you might actually get to hear the punchline. Okay, so here is worksheet number worksheet number 3 from Unit 9, and you can see that the instructions say factor out the greatest common factor for each polynomial. We're going to go over the even numbered problems, numbers 4 and 6 and 8 and 10. I asked you to do numbers 3 through 11. Okay, so starting with number 4. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, these two terms in number 4. Number 4 has two distinct terms. Those terms are different from each other, so they're not alike terms, and they're separated by an addition symbol. So this is called a binomial. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to factor out the greatest common factor. So let's take a look at the numbers first, which is a 12 and a 28. And what we want to do is we want to find the largest number. Let me zoom it in for a second here. The largest number that divides into both 12 and 28. Okay, so what is that? All right, well, what divides into 12? Well, 12 divides into 12, but it doesn't go into 28. 6 divides into 12, but it does not go into 28. Okay, 4 divides into 12, and 4 also divides into 28. So we are going to divide both numbers, both terms here by 4. And then after we look at the numbers, we want to see if each term, if they have a common variable. So you can see the first term here has a j. It actually has 3 j's, j to the third. But the second term has no j's at all. So that means my greatest common factor is 4. Okay, so that is my first factor. And then my remaining factors would be what's left over from each one of these terms after I divide by 4. So when I divide 12j to the third by 4, I have a 3j to the third left over. I have an addition sign left over, and 28 divided by 4 is I have a 7 left over. Okay, so this right here is going to be my solution to number 4. Now, once again, like we've talked about in class, you can check your answer to make sure that you did it right. And the way that you check your answer is you just simply distribute out your common factor into both of these terms, and it should equal what you started. So 4 times 3j to the third becomes 12j to the third. 4 times 7 becomes positive 28. So you can see that my factored answer, when I distribute my greatest common factor back out, I get my original expression. Therefore, I've guaranteed I've done it correctly. Okay, moving on to number 6 here. We have 12k to the third. That's my first term. We have a minus a 9k to the second. That's my second term. And then we have a positive 6. So in this case, we have 3 terms. So this is called a trinomial because we have 3 terms. Okay, so I'm going to, to find my greatest common factor, I have to, let's start with the numbers. I have to find a number that divides into 12 and 9 and 6, and it has to be some number other than 1. Okay, so when you're doing this, always start at the lowest number. So what divides into 6? Well, 6 divides into 6, but 6 does not divide into 9, so that cannot be a common factor. Go back here. What else divides into 6? 3. 3 divides into 9, and 3 divides into 12, so that means a common factor is going to be 3. Then let's look at the variables, the letters. We have a k here. We actually have 3 k's. We have 2 k's here, but we don't have any k's here, so that means all 3 of the terms don't share a common k, so my only common factor is 3. That's my greatest common factor. Okay, then, so that's my first factor. Then my second factor is going to be what's left over after I divide 3 out of each term. So 12k to the third divided by 3 is 4k to the third, minus 9k to the second divided by 3 is 3k to the second, plus 6 divided by 3 is 2. So there are my factors. My greatest common factor is 3, and then my second factor is 4k to the third, okay? So I'm going to check my answer once again because I'm sick and tired of getting 1 out of 10s on my homework. I'd really like to get a 10 out of 10. And to check your homework, or to check your answer, you distribute the greatest common factor back into the second factor. So 3 times 4k to the third is 12k to the third. I have a minus. 3 times 3k to the second is 9k to the second. I have an addition sign, and 3 times 2 is 6. So you could see when I checked it, when I multiplied my greatest common factor back out, I ended up with my original polynomial, my trinomial that I had. There we go. I'm good. Number 8. Okay, so I have 32z to the fourth. That's my first term. Minus 80z to the third. That's my second term. Plus 112z to the second. So that is my third term right there. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I have to find my greatest common factor. So let's start with the numbers, the coefficients. 32, 80, and 112. What's the largest number that divides into all three of these other than 1? All right, well, it is 16. So I can divide all of these numbers by 16. Okay, how did I know that? Well, I started with my lowest coefficient, 32. I knew 32 didn't go into 80, but then my next largest number that went in 32 was 16, and 16 went into all of these. Okay, now in this problem, though, if you notice, we have common z's. We have 4 z's right here. We have 3 z's right here, and we have 2 z's right here. So if I drew this out, you could see we have 4 z's in the first term, we have 3 z's in the second term, and we have 2 z's in the third term. So what does each term, how many z's are in each term? Well, you can see they have 2 z's. There's at least 2 z's in every term. So that means I'm going to divide not just by 16, but I'm going to divide by z to the second. Okay? So my common factor, my greatest common factor, is 16z to the second power. And then next to that, in parentheses, I'm going to write what's going to be left from each term after I divide 16z to the second. So 32 divided by 16 is 2. Z to the fourth divided by z to the second. Remember, when you divide, you subtract the exponents. So that would be 4 minus 2. So that's z to the second. Put a minus sign. 80 divided by 16 is 5. Z to the third divided by z to the second. We subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1. So that's a z to the 1 power. We don't have to write the 1 power. Plus 112 divided by 16 is 7, and then z to the second divided by z to the second is z to the 0, so the z's are eliminated. So there is my factored answer for number 8. And once again, we can check our factored answer by multiplying. I'm going to skip the check in number 8 right here. Okay? No, I was kidding. I'm going to go ahead and check it. I'm tired of getting 1 out of 10s on my all my homeworks because I missed stuff. All right, let's check it. 16z to the second times 2z to the second is 32z to the fourth, minus 16z to the second times 5z is 80z to the third. Okay, then I have an addition sign, and then 16z to the second times 7 is 112z to the second power. So there's my answer, and you could see that that took me back to my original problem. Last one, and we're going to go over number 10. Okay, there's number 10. We have 24y to the 6. Then we have plus 36y to the fourth. Then we have plus 42y to the second. So let's find a greatest common factor. Okay, so I'm going to look at the coefficients, the numbers first. 24, 36, 42. Start with the lowest one, 24. What goes into 24? Well, 24 goes into 24, but 24 does not go into 36 or 42. That's not a common factor. What else goes into 24? Well, 12 goes into it. 12 goes into 36, but 12 does not go into 42. What else goes into 24? 8 goes into it. Problem is, 8 doesn't go into 36, okay? How about 6? 6 goes into all these numbers. So that means I'm going to divide all the numbers by 6. That's a common factor. Now, if you notice, all of the terms have y's in them. This has 2 y's, this term has 4 y's, this term has 6 y's. So that means each term has at least 2 y's in each expression. So my greatest common factor is 6y to the second power. That's my first factor. My second factor will be what's left after I divide. 24 divided by 6 is 4. Y to the 6 divided by y to the second, you subtract the exponents, so that would be 6 minus 2, 4y to the fourth. Plus 36 divided by 6 is 6. Y to the fourth divided by y to the second is y to the second. Plus 42 divided by 6 is 7. And y to the second divided by y to the second, you subtract. 2 minus 2 is 0, so the y's are eliminated. There's my factored form of my original trinomial that I started with. Okay, let's check our answer by distributing the greatest common factor out to see if I end up with the exact same expression that I started with. So 6y to the second times 4y to the fourth is 24y to the sixth. That checks out right there. Plus 6y to the second times 6y to the second is 36y to the fourth. So that checks out with the second term. Plus 6y to the second times 7 is 42y to the second. So you could see my answer checks out and I'm good. Okay? All right, we're done. So I got a neck brace. Years ago, I got a neck brace. It was a good thing for me. I haven't looked back since. Have a good day.